The Redefined podcast is part of the Winmate Give podcast network.
Hold on to your britches. I don't know if any of you are wearing britches, but I encourage you to grab tight because today's show of the Redefined podcast is a good one. Katie Day, the legend herself from Houston, Texas, joining us to talk about all the good things she's doing, but really, I want to learn about the dumb things she's done. My friend Katie's plenty dumb, and I can't wait to share all this stuff with you here. Katie, how's that for a hype intro, calling you dumb to start it off?
I appreciate that. You want to keep the expectations low. So I'm glad we're doing that. People are like, all right, another dumb person to hang out with Hatch. So thanks so much for having me, I guess.
I
hope you're having a great day.
I worked at a Mexican restaurant all throughout college, and let it be known, if you can't trust good Mexican food in Fargo, North Dakota, I don't know what you can trust. Like, you live in Houston and like, oh yeah, you're close to Mexico, there's great Mexican food. No. Tex-Mex and Fargo, that is where stories are told. But here's what I would do, Katie, is I would go up to tables and I greet them and I'd be like, hey, I'm Eric, I'm your server. Wanted to let you know we're short staffed tonight, or I just got triple sat, or the cook called in sick, or the bartender's backed up, but I'm going to do everything I can to give you great service. And what I would do is I would lower their expectation. I would literally try to bring it down like to the floor. And then when I gave them good or exemplary service, they're like, this ginger's great. Holy cow.
Well, you had a lot against you too. Like, I mean, your ginger, your general demeanor and personality. All right. Sorry. I just had to get a little jab back in. I'm here to be positive and.
When I think about positivity, Katie Day is the first person that comes to my mind. Like, who's always nice to me and always bringing rainbows and sunshine? It's Katie Day.
Here's the thing though, is if I were nice to you, you'd be like, oh no, like some things are unwell. Like it would be of concern to you. So I'm just trying to keep you humble, and maybe we can get to some content here. I don't know.
If I ever got a phone call from you and you were just like, Eric, I really appreciate you, I would immediately call your husband and be like, is Katie okay? This is a wellness check.
Funny you say that. I have been practicing gratitude this month. Every single day I write down 10 gratitudes and affirmations and things like that. And I think 10 is a number that is a little bit difficult. Like 5's easy, right? Because you got like, something good that happened to you yesterday. That's 1 or 2. You got like family members and children and, things like that. So it's like that hit you 5. So it's easy. But you have to dig a little bit deeper for the other 5. And who knows, maybe you will make my gratitude list tomorrow morning. I don't know. I'm not going to spoil the spoiler alert or anything, but maybe you will.
Tomorrow is the 18th of the month. And so if I could be number 175 to 185, I would feel really great on your gratitude list. What an unbelievable spot to be, Katie. Make sure you don't actually tell other people that you just hang on to that for yourself, but don't share that with the world. That would be too off brand.
Yeah. Heard.
Katie, you and I are connected because we are a part of the same real estate brokerage. We're a part of Real Brokerage, which I know we both love, and it allows us to do life together and to grow together. And we have a lot of conversations offline and that sort. But you have gone on and you've built a powerhouse business of real estate and some other great successes. And so I know you love the limelight, and you love attention, and you love talking about yourself. So I say that sarcastically, listeners. If you didn't know, Katie is, she just wants to make fun of other people. That's about it. But I want you to literally share with the listeners, like, what are the accomplishments that you've achieved? What are some of the things that you're really proud of in business and life? And then we're going to unpack that and find out what a big dummy you are.
Yeah. Gotta keep me humble. So I appreciate that. So back when I was 5 years old, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go that far back. So I think, I've always been a very driven person. And that's just kind of in my DNA, and in my makeup. So like I graduated college early, like I graduated in 3 years. And so I started off in like my career.
Did you have a bunch of like AP credits, or did you just?
I had a semester. I came in with a semester.
Okay.
I just was like that nerd that would take like 18 plus hours every semester.
What'd you study?
Business management. Pretty boring, but yeah, I don't do well with downtime.
You and I have been having conversations about like career opportunities and that sort. And if you choose to go down a path, it's going to be riddled with downtime. So I'll be curious what you fill it with.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't do all the downtime. I just like, I'm not one to sit around for, just the sake of sitting around. Although I do like a good nap, but so I graduated college pretty early. So I started in my professional career, at the age of 20. And I think,
well, hold on. What was that like being a 20-year-old professional? Because I mean, I'm an old, grimy 43 now, and I think a 20-year-old has kids.
I was definitely a child. 1,000%. And that's kind of like, there are highs and lows of that professional development for me. But what was great about that, and what I think was quite an accomplishment, was I got into property management. And so I did apartment management, and I moved in up in the industry very quickly. And so, I was managing my first property at like 21 years old, and got a lot of business experience. And I think that set me up very well for, running my real estate business now, running, different entrepreneurial adventures and things like that. And, looking back on it now, as you said, like as a 40-year-old, as a 30 year old person, like I'm like, God, I would never
You're older than 30.
30-year-old 30s. You're in your 40s. I'm in my 30s.
Do you know who says they're in their 30s? A 39-year-old. That's
36, asshole.
Whatever, Gam. Keep going.
You have no hair, sir.
I do on my back and shoulders. It's cool. Yeah.
All right. So, I've completely lost my train of thought. This is derailed. How many minutes in are we right now?
Yeah, we're done. Actually, this is pretty great.
And that's the podcast for the day, folks.
That's right. Hey, no, you were climbing up. You found success. It's transcended into your real estate team now.
Yeah, and so I was given a lot of responsibility. Again, if that were me now, I would never do that or give that to a 21-year-old, right? But I was given a lot of responsibility, and it forced me to, understand kind of how the business world worked, understand having tough conversations. Pretty much everyone I managed was older than me, right? So
what was that like?
It was hard.
When I was young, and now I'm middle-aged, but when I was young, I was so scared of leading people that were older than me.
It was definitely difficult. And that's where I think like I wasn't great at having tough conversations and being direct, and having to, coach people. And in that world, I was in like a W-2 world, right? So you would have to sit down and have the 3 strikes and the conversations about, what's gone wrong and how can you improve and all of these things. So it was definitely difficult. But having that experience very early on in my professional career, like most 20-year-olds are, still serving tables and doing jobs that you can just clock in and clock out. And I was doing jobs that required me to work, if there was a flood at an apartment, or, some sort of maintenance emergency, like I may have to talk to the resident about that at, 8 p.m. on a Friday night and things like that. So,
I mean, Katie, I hear this. You talk about how you said that you don't sit still very easy. And then you went into a career that was more a lifestyle than a career. It was more nights and weekends and interruptions than it was predictable schedules, right?
Yeah. I mean, and what attracted me to it was that like no days are ever the same, right? You come in and you're like, oh, I'm gonna like process checks because it's the first of the month. And then like someone like let their tub overflow on the 3rd floor, and you're dealing with like, craziness when you walk in. Yeah. So yeah.
So you do property management for a while. How'd you get into real estate then?
So I did that basically from 2008 to 2015. And I got my real estate license at the end of 2015. And I was at the time managing single family homes, and my company was merging with another company. So there was basically 5 people in my position between my company and other companies. So I was like, if I have a 1 in 5 chance of keeping my job, I should probably come up with a plan B. So I got my real estate license, and then in 2016 did it part-time, and then in 2017 jumped in full-time into real estate.
So let's fast forward the last 6 years. You're now running a real estate team. How big is your team?
Our team's 15 agents, and 3 admin support here locally, and then 2 VAs.
Okay. And your team will sell $100 million in volume, roughly,
give or take.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gang, that's a lot. Average sales price in Houston is 450, 500. Is that right?
A little under 4. Yeah.
Oh, you're down there then. No, just like the average sales price in the United States in 2022 was $540,000. And I would have guessed a big metro like Houston was higher up.
We broke 400 during the pandemic. But now it's floating in the high 3s, low 4s, plus or minus depending on the month and what sells, kind of thing.
Sure. So you're selling a lot of houses. You have a great profit margin on that. You have team members that are having big careers. You've gone on at Real to add a whole bunch of people to your network that you've galvanized and helped to bring attention to the company. You have a YouTube channel that's really kick butt. Tell us about your YouTube channel, Katie. And is the Move Me to Texas brand, right?
Yeah. It may just be my name, I think.
Is it?
If you search Katie Day.
Okay.
Or if you search Move Me to Texas, both would come up because it's all, everything is they're synonymous, right? It's all out there. Yeah, I mean, so for YouTube, basically we do talking head style type videos where, I'm talking about things in Houston and news in Texas and what it's like living here, things you can expect. We highlight local businesses and, restaurants and entrepreneurs in Houston. And just try to give people an idea of what it would look like to live here. And, since YouTube is a search engine and people are looking for things, anything from changing a tire to making a huge life move across the country or across the state, it garners, views, and then people will contact us, right, to assist them with moving, in or around the Houston area.
So you've obviously bought the equipment, you employ somebody to help with video recording and with editing, but ultimately it's just your time that goes into it. There's no hard cost. You're not buying leads from other people. How many deals last year did you close from YouTube?
That's a great question. I should have known you were going to get
either percent, because I think this is one of your most fascinating things, Katie. And then we're going to be done talking about the good, and I want to talk about the bad.
Yeah. I mean, just ballpark. When you ask number of deals, that gives me I need to give you a specific number, but ballpark, it's about 20% of our business.
Okay.
Is YouTube.
Okay. And that is earned business. That is reputation business. And in an industry in which most people try to buy their way to the top, you are instead earning your way to the top by capturing things that not only create mind share, but people find you. And then a YouTube video doesn't die out after somebody watches it. A lot of things on social media get so buried and so hidden, and you're instead leaning into YouTube, and 20% of your business, literally $20 million of volume in housing, that's $600,000 in GCI roughly, is coming from YouTube. That's a big deal, Katie. Is it?
Thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Is it just you, or do you have your whole team that's featured on there?
For the most part, it's me. The team does help with some spotlights, and then depending on some of the videos, we've had the team participate and things like that, right? Like, because I mean, Houston's a huge metro, so we cover a lot of different suburbs and areas. So, our team lives kind of all over, and so it's helpful, when you live in Cypress, or you live in Pearland, us talking specifically about that neighborhood.
Last question, and then we're going to move on. How many hours a week would you say you work?
I would say I probably work 60 Monday through Friday.
Okay.
Right.
Okay, so you're still in the grind season right now.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
50
I would say 50 actually. If
Okay.
we think about 5 days in a week, because really I don't work a ton on the weekends. It's mainly Monday through Friday at this point for me.
Okay.
And I probably work anywhere between 9 to 11-hour days.
Yeah, you're 7 to 5 type thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So 50 hours a week. You have moved yourself into an echelon where you're making a really great living. and you're 36 years old, mid 30s, upper 30s, basically.
On the back half of that mid, but yeah.
That's right. I think most people in their mid 30s aren't making what you're making. When I was your age, I'm 7 years older than you, but when I was your age, I wasn't
back in my day.
That's right. I wasn't making what you're making. You are you're doing some really special things, but I know for certain, without even the details, that it's been a bumpy road to get here. And there's a book by an author named Keith Cunningham, and he writes in the book The Road Less Stupid. He talks about how most of the things in our lives that will breed success are actually avoiding the dumb things. And that's what I want our audience here to absorb, Katie, is the dumb things that you've done that they can try to avoid. Because if somebody can listen to this and say, like, I want to be an entrepreneur like Katie or Eric, I want to climb to the 36-year-old echelon that she is, and have this huge career of success. I think it's important that we know, not just like, because somebody can't just jump into property management and be Katie Day, and they can't just jump into real estate or YouTube and be Katie Day. They have to actually go through some of the pitfalls, but instead of them going through it, they can learn it from you. So with that being said, I want to hear the dumb, stupid, horrible mistakes and things that have happened to you, so we can laugh at you, first of all, and then second, learn from you. I'm here to laugh, learn, and love.
I think that, don't you have a sign like that, like in your living room?
So. Yeah.
You know,
I also dance like no one's watching. And even when people do watch, I should not be dancing.
I would agree. All right. So you just want me to talk?
Yeah, I do. It is an open-ended smorgasbord for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the majority of things that I would say as far as mistakes have been like leadership style mistakes. Right. We talked a couple weeks ago when we were together a lot about how people, don't leave companies, they leave leaders. And I think that when I two points to it, like when I now looking back on like my career and things like that, I try to, when people aren't doing things the way that I want them to, or someone does something wrong or whatever, I try to figure out like what I could have done better. Right. Like maybe it's not them, it's me. Sometimes it is them. Right. But like, I always like, okay, how can I better, explain, serve, whatever. And so when I look back in conflict and mistakes made, like it normally comes down to like me not being a good leader or communicating in the right way.
Yeah, give me some specific examples. Can you think of a time or two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, rewinding further back in my career, like back when I was in property management, it would be like just avoiding hard conversations, right? Sending emails instead of having conversations, and things like that, right? Just because like, at how many, 21 years old, 22 years old, like I just wasn't mature enough to be having those conversations,
Right.
So
what you said though is such a subtle nuance. You probably shouldn't text or email emotion. Is that a fair statement? Because that's a mistake I've made plenty of times, Katie, is I've taken something that is emotionally charged and I've tried to communicate without my nonverbals, without the energy that I can bring or the care and compassion. And so I've had big mistakes of emailing and texting something that was emotionally charged.
Well, I think, yeah, for sure. Like that especially if it's, if there's emotion involved, it should be, or needs to be clearly communicated. It should be verbal, right? And then you can follow that up with an email or follow that up with a text. And like in a world where you do need to document the conversations and things like that, like that should be done that way. But I also think that like being too emotional is a problem as well. Where emotions, people, I always joke that I don't have them, but like everyone has emotions. And like, I think another mistake that I've made in the past is like responding to things too quickly, right? Not letting things simmer, not letting me say, okay, I can respond to this tomorrow. Let me think about this, and firing off a fiery, response or whatever. So that's definitely something that I'm working on more now, letting things play out a little bit more, letting other people handle them before I just hop into things, especially if I'm emotional about it. I feel that way a lot in real estate, right? If you're negotiating a deal or something like that, it's like getting super emotional over it. Like I need to remove myself from the situation and kind of calm down and then respond at a later date kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Uh, do you have like leader mentors that you kind of model behavior after, or is your leadership style uniquely yours?
Other than you, no, I think that, people come into your life, and you sometimes realize it when they're in your life, and you sometimes realize it like later on, right, in your life, that you had a good leader, or you had someone that was someone to model after, right? Like you don't always realize it in that current moment. So like as I look back on, my professional career and even like college and things like that, like I've had managers and bosses and supervisors and like leaders of companies that I've worked at that have been um you know inspirational or aspiration or whatever it may be, that have impacted me pretty significantly. So like my first boss right out of college when I was doing property management like taught me a ton about the business world. Eventually I um actually ended up like, I don't want to say taking her job, but replacing her.
Mm.
And not she was still in the job. So the company decided to promote me into her job. So that was like something that was like a really difficult situation. But she like taught me so much about like, giving clear expectations and doing all of these things. And I thought she was an amazing manager. And especially young in my career, really helped me to understand. And there's a lot of things I still do to this day that like I learned kind of in that first job that I had.
Mm-hmm.
Another like I think, as far as leaders of companies and things like that, like our founder and CEO Tamir, is a very thoughtful person. When you're in the room with him, like he doesn't speak just to speak. There's a lot of CEOs and visionaries that talk just to kind of talk, right? But he's very he thinks a lot about what he's going to say. You can really tell, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the sincerity in what he says, is felt. So that's something that like I'm trying to do a better job of, in my communication, and especially when I'm speaking to people that I work with.
Yeah. Have you ever read Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek?
I have.
Yeah, you're looking to see if it's on your bookshelf right
It's
now.
either on my bookshelf in here or it may be in the our other office.
I mean,
But yes,
I think of Real Brokerage's CEO Tamir Poleg when I hear that, and the idea and the premonition of Leaders Eat Last is you are sitting back and letting other people self-discover and find their way, because you don't need to be the first one to speak. You need to be actually the last one to speak, because you're able to give a better, more educated kind of thing. And was that natural for you early on? Is that you wanted to be the first one to speak and the loudest to speak?
no, I'm the type of person that I do like to be in control, right? But when I'm in a room with lots of people, I'm completely fine sitting back and letting everyone else kind of, do their thing. So I don't it's not something that like speaking a ton doesn't come like naturally to me, right? Like I have to like take myself out and like, be like, all right, we're doing this, like, type of thing in those situations. But I think for me, like for someone like Tamir and like modeling behavior or something like that is like, I want to be more thoughtful in my responses kind of thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
again, like just not a lot of people talk to talk, right? Like I want to make sure that like what my contribution is meaningful.
Right. Uh, that's been a growing piece for me too, is to try to figure out how to not be the first to speak, but instead to try to pump the brakes and be a little more introspective and not just blurt out. But I'm pretty good at blurting.
You are, yeah, but I feel like you're especially in like the rooms that we've been in, right? Where it's like
Mhm.
the rooms sometimes get heated or they get, whatever. And like you're normally pretty like even keeled and like, hey, like, we've circle talked this, so like let's move on. We keep coming back to
I
the
just
same point.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I'm happy to wrap something up. That's for sure. Like
yeah,
if there was an orchestra pit that I could signal to start playing some music, I would happily do that.
if
Uh,
only.
Katie, you started to talk about previous people that you worked with, and you used the reference of that person who was your property management manager, a PMM, really. And so this property management manager, you said you loved her management style, but I'm a believer that management and leadership are two different things. So I'd love your take on the similarities and differences between those two.
Oh, hard-hitting questions, man. I love this.
Whammy.
I think everyone's seen the meme. It's not really a meme, but it's like a graphic, right? Of like the person that's leading from the front or leading from behind.
Mm-hmm.
Of like the person sitting on the chair, like cracking the whip, right?
Yep.
And then the one that's like they're dragging them along with them, or they're in the trenches, or I don't really know what the graphic is. Clearly it resonated with me. So I think of management more so of like, hey, I'm going to give you these tasks. Here's this list. And then I'm going to follow up to make sure it was done. And if I've imparted enough knowledge on you, hopefully you start to take some initiative, and you're telling me it's done and I'm not having to follow up. And that's like kind of how I see management, right? When you're managing people. Leadership, I think, is a little bit less quantifiable, or I guess is the word that I'm kind of looking for. I think that it's something that um whether you know it or not, you're inspiring people around you, by your actions and by what you say and say and do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um and I think that like leaders are willing, to get their hands dirty. Something that I kind of feel like is like, I'm not going to ask you to do something I wouldn't be willing to do myself.
Mm-hmm.
When I think back to property management, it's like, if we're riding around the property or walking around the property and I see trash on the ground, I'm going to pick it up,
Yeah.
and throw it away. Like, I'm not going to be like, Eric, go pick that up. And so I think that's more of like the leadership side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I don't know, that those are kind of my thoughts around it. I don't know if it's a tied with a bow answer, but those
Yeah,
are
I want to try to
thoughts.
summarize what you said, because I wrote it down as you were talking. Management is measured, leadership is felt. Right? Management is, you have boxes to check, you have standards to do, you have numbers to hit. All these things are management. These are business strategies, but leadership is an art. It's not a science.
Yeah.
Leadership is about the energy you bring and the way in which you make people feel. And I think that management can be taught by a book. Leadership is a concept, but it is completely executed in different sorts of ways, because you and I follow the same industry standards of what our profit margins should be and what we should be doing. And so it's really easy to take a look at saying, well, I'm successful in these arenas and you're successful in these arenas, but leadership is different, because leadership is like a following and a trust, and right, it's something that you feel, and you and I do it very differently, but I think somewhat effectively. Does that feel accurate?
Yeah, it does.
Okay. Well, let me say this then. We've gone down the vein of talking about how some of your biggest failures have been leadership failures, and that's what you were quick to say right away. I want stories, Katie. I want to know, when did you completely mess up? When did you go the wrong direction? When did you take a conversation that just completely derailed and you went, how the hell did this get here? Like, I'd love to hear some of the battle wounds that you have, because I think leadership is so hard. And if somebody can learn some things from you, I think it'd be valuable.
Oh, I'm trying to think of some real life examples, some situations.
Let me
I
say this,
think
Katie. Go ahead.
No,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. What do you got?
Well, I was gonna say, I found myself in the last few months. I had a therapy appointment earlier today, so maybe I'm extra
So we're
extra
unpacking.
spicy.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to welcome to my newest therapy appointment. It's just all our listeners jiving in. Therapy is
Cost
an
you
interesting thing.
less.
Do you do therapy?
I do not know.
Oh man, I freaking love it. I absolutely love it. I have someone who's helping me to try to unpack my things, and I'm in this place, in this space, where my identity has been tied to my business.
Yeah.
My identity has been tied to being a producer, being a performer, being a leader, being all these things. And in the last 9 months, I've had people leave my team. I've had coaching clients step away, and I all of a sudden am left saying, am I still a part of my identity? Like, is my identity in question, or do seasons just come and change? And I'm having to learn and understand that my identity is more than just the wins and losses that I have on the scoreboard, but it is instead in the impact I made. So as I'm looking at things, if I look back on the last year of my life, and if I were to say, boy, am I winning or losing based on all that? And if I have some true leadership tales, lately it's felt like I've lost more than I've won. And then if I zoom out enough, it's like I have transcended super mightily, and I've taken one step back, and I'm going to transcend. Yeah. Katie, I promise you, this phoenix, this ginger phoenix will rise from the ashes, and there will be some unbelievable stories to tell in the next chapter. And I'm grateful for the lessons I'm learning, but it's super easy for me to live in this vein of like this short-term story of leadership failures. And here's where I failed, Katie. Through all my therapy, through everything else, I realized that I failed because I tried to chase two rabbits at the same time. And that's it. If you chase two, you catch none, right? And I was trying to chase actually three rabbits. I was growing real. I was building my coaching company. I was building my real estate team. And when I was trying to give all of them attention, none of them were a 10 out of 10. So my leadership lesson, my leadership failure with 1,000 micro lessons within that is because I was trying to chase too many things. I can't imagine what kind of success I could get if I give one thing all my attention. What's that face? You're making a face right now, Katie.
No, I mean, it's, that I'm in a similar world right now. Mm-hmm. Right. As to figuring out kind of what that looks like for me. So that's why I'm just kind of like uncomfortably smiling.
Yeah. So when it comes to your leadership lessons and some tough failures that you have endured, I want to know what hit you right between the eyes.
So I think I can think of a couple times in which, team members have either said that they want to leave or have departed or whatever. And like, I haven't always handled that the best.
Walk me through how you have handled it.
Well, so I can think of one specifically, right? That like, they said that they wanted to leave, but instead of saying that they want to leave, they like basically were like, hey, like I'm not making enough money here. Mm-hmm. Right. Instead of me just being like, okay, hey, like I can understand where you're coming from, whatever. Like, best of luck to you. Let's figure out the exit strategy. It was kind of one of those things where it's like, then I dig into the data and I look at all of the numbers and, of the deals, say there's 30 deals and they brought, 3 and we provided 27, mm-hmm. I'm throwing all of that back in your face, right? To be like, oh, well, you say you're not making any money, but if you would have been on your own, you only would have made $7, 3 deals, but blah, blah, and all of this thing. And instead, like now looking back on it and I have some friends that have gone through this recently and I'm like, now my question would be like, hey, we can definitely sit down and talk about the amount of money that you're making, but has your decision to leave the team already been made? Mm-hmm. Right. And if the answer is yes, then like there's no point in me then coming to you and telling me why we're so great because you've already planned on leaving.
Yeah.
Right. Your decision's already done. Your decision's already made. It's better for us to part on, what would probably be slightly more amicable terms than me, throwing in your face that things are so great here because you've already decided they're not, Mm-hmm. And so, I think also there's this like thought or line of like, yeah. So that's like, I think again, like coming down to people and I don't know, like I had said earlier, like leadership was like leadership lessons or, errors in my ways previously, right? Like those have been my biggest mistakes. And like, I think that that's kind of in the same like thought, vein, field, area kind of thing?
Uh, there are, what's crazy about it is there are 1,000 right steps you can make, and if you make one wrong step, all of a sudden the 1,000 right ones are just thrown out the window. I think back to this was 2018, 2017. We had our top agent on our team. We had to get him out. I'll save you and spare you all the details. But he had to go, and it was time. And a week later, literally in the office that I record this now, I met with a gal on my team named Emily. And Emily was what I thought was a ride or die for me. I thought that she was going to be a forever team member. She was predictable. She was lovely, all these things. And she came to me a week after we had this really bad breakup with our other agent. And she's like, hey, I'm going to leave. And it just totally blindsided me.
Yeah.
Absolutely caught me off guard. And I was just in this point where I'm like, okay, well, you got to go. And she told me this, I think on like a Tuesday, and I forced her out by Friday. She wanted like a month of time to think. And I have so many feelings around, do you keep people around when they say that they're going to go? And like 99% of the time, if somebody says they're going to go, you should literally get them out within the next 48 hours. I will die on that hill, whether it's an employee, an agent, you name it. Usually you should get them to go. But she was in that 1% where like she just was doing me a service by saying, hey, I'm going to make this change in my life, and let's figure out how to do it well. And I just pushed her out. And when I pushed her out, Katie, that relationship now is like gone. And I know she doesn't think well of me like I think well of her, because I did it dirty one time wrong. And that's the thing that she's hanging on to.
I think that it's tough, like just from the real estate perspective, right? Like putting on my real estate hat and like, because, you know, as a team member, like as someone on our team, you have access to so much data, right? And like from a team leader perspective, it's like, all right, if you're gone, then you're gone and we're shutting off all of your stuff.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that's tough. Like because you have the one agent, like, so the one thing that someone does wrong, you have the one agent that like takes every single lead, or like, you know, like, and tries to do these, you know, like, or the brokerage that emails all of your clients. Like, you know, if we have an agent that leaves the team, we delete their sphere out from our CRM. That's the first thing on the onboarding checklist. Like, I'm not going to call your past clients, you know?
Yeah. You know, so my wife, after 17 years of being an educator, just stepped away from teaching. And when she told the school district, my wife is the most honest, upstanding, amazing person on earth. As soon as she told her principal, within like an hour, her key fob was deactivated. She couldn't even get into the school to get her stuff out, because you have to operate in those situations on like worst case scenario, and everybody has to now deal with those ramifications. Yeah. But Katie, I heard you say this, is you said, is your decision to leave when that person was on their way out, and they had done 30 deals, 27 of the 30 were yours, 3 of them they brought in. And the questions you had were the right questions, but they were just put in the wrong order. Does that feel accurate?
Then, right? Yeah. But I mean, I didn't even ask that.
Right. I mean, the question should be, hey, have you made your decision to leave, or are you still trying to figure a way to make this work and stay around? Right.
Yeah. And that wasn't the thing. It was that, okay, well, let's sit down and talk about this. And I have all of this data, and because you know me, I have all this data and spreadsheets of like, this is why we're so great. And like,
then you just look like a cocky raging bee, right? That they're just frustrated with, and it compounds the story that they've been telling themselves in their head.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So if listeners are listening to this and they're saying like, well, what lesson do I have to learn from Katie's mistakes, is like, ask better questions. I think you were quick to make statements. Does that feel accurate? You were quick to try to provide data and make statements. And had you slowed down to ask better questions, you maybe would have, I mean, would the person still have gone? I mean, possibly.
No, I mean, looking back on it now, I think 100% their decision had already been made. Right. But like, you know, if I would have said, well, hey, has your decision already been made? Like, whatever. And they're like, yeah, like I'm going to go out on my own and be a realtor on my own. Then I would have been like, okay, cool. Well, like, we're going to shut down your stuff. You'll take your clients with you and, pay us a referral fee on the 3 deals that you have going right now. And like, best of luck to you, but like, instead I'm like, we do all of this stuff. And then after 15 minutes of us saying how great we are, they're like, yeah, like, we're still going to go. And we're like, all right, well, screw you then. Right. And it's like, we're going to shut down all your shit. And if I would have just said, hey, we're going to shut it all off now, this is the exit process, it would have been smoother in my opinion. But
you had made mention earlier in our conversation about when you hesitated having hard conversations. Property management is nothing but hard conversations. Do you think that prepared you to be a better real estate team leader?
Yeah, I mean, I think as I've matured, as I've had more hard conversations and things like that, it's just like, the eat the frog mentality of like, hey, like, it's not going to get any easier. So whether that's something that's like a team thing, or if it's a client conversation or whatever it is, like, yeah, I mean, I think all of that has helped me to be moderately better at it today than I was, 10 plus years ago.
I want to ask this. I assume you've had to fire people before, yes? How do you handle that? Because there are some right ways and wrong ways in which to handle firing. And because you have some experience with that, like, what do you think is the best way to fire someone?
To not beat around the bush. At least that's kind of where I've gotten. I would like, the first firing I did, my God, it was so terrible. I wish I would have recorded it. Just but yeah, I mean, I think
it's not you, it's me. Is that kind of the situation?
I mean, yeah, it was like an awkward breakup. But no, I mean, I think that if you've gotten to the point where either you both know it's not working out, or you've had enough meetings to that your performance isn't to where it needs to be, then it's like you sit down, or you go into the meeting or whatever it is, and it's like, hey, Eric, like, I think you probably know why we're here, but we need to have a tough conversation, and then just go into it. Right. Or, hey, I think you know why we're here. And, we've talked about your performance. Things haven't improved. So at this point, your employment is terminated, and these are the next steps. Like that.
Yeah.
There's not like the entire, like, well, what questions do you have? Or, like, it's just like, this is what's happening, and these are the steps, and thank you very much. Like, now you can go, kind of thing. Has worked better than the, like, longer drawn out.
I want to add on that, because I think you brought up a couple of great points. You said something of like, hey, we've had a lot of conversations about this. I simplify that to say it's a no surprises rule when it comes to firing. Unless somebody steps out unethically and they do something that is against the moral code of your company, it should be brought to their attention a number of times, and that attention should be documented. So many of us have verbal meetings and we don't actually write things down, and you will be in a trouble bucket if you don't have things documented. We fired somebody last year, Katie, and it was a gross one. We fired her, and within 30 days, I got a letter from a lawyer saying that we fired her without grounds and cause. And thank goodness. And she was suing us for about 6 figures, right? Just like emotional distress and all these other things. And her lawyer sent us that letter, and your immediate is like, oh crap, what do we do? And my admin team had been so good of documenting every one of the tough conversations that they had. I think that anytime you have a tough conversation verbally, you need to follow it up with the points that were hit on in email. That's the documentation that you need, right? This is what we talked about. This is what we agreed upon for the next plan. And so we were able to share all of that. And all of a sudden that lawyer went away. What was a 6-figure lawsuit is no longer on our plate because we documented really well. But when it does come to firing, Katie, it's exactly what you said. It's listen, we've talked about this. It hasn't gotten better. This is your last day. Period. I don't want to continue to belabor too much on things, but I want to give you the last voice of maybe something that people need to do better or different as leaders or as business owners or entrepreneurs. One or two things that they can do better or different so that they can have a more bountiful life of money and a much more balanced life of stress and time.
Okay. Couple takeaways. So I've been on this little personal journey this month, right? Doing the affirmations and listening to motivational stuff and things like that. And so one of the things that I think has been a common theme of a lot of like the motivational talks and things I've been listening to, has been like focusing in on the basics and the skills. As you said, like if you're chasing multiple rabbits, two to three rabbits, right? And if you would have just focused on one, how much sooner would you have gotten it? How much better would it have been? All of the things, right? And so the thing that I've really been focusing in on lately is like, what are the basics? What are those little things that I need to do every single day that move the needle? Instead of getting caught up in all of the things. And I heard Hatch is doing this, and I'm going to do it. And I heard this business person's doing this, so I'm going to go do that. Like, keep the focus and just keep, hammering away at those basic things that, will move your business forward, whatever that may be. And then on the skills part, just continuing to practice and doing things on your own to continue to level up, in whatever, industry or business you're in.
I like that. And I like you, Katie Day. You do some great stuff for the world. And I know you're at this fun little crossroads. And my guess is once you start chasing one rabbit, some crazy success is going to find you. And I want people to check you out. They can find you on the Instagrams at Move Me to Texas TX. They can find you on YouTube, either Katie Day or Move Me to Texas TX. And is that right? I mean, because I'd spell out Texas and as a full word, but you just went ahead and abbreviated that. Does that feel good?
The abbreviation is TX. Yeah.
Yes. Thank you. Yeah. I feel pretty good about knowing my states. With that being said, listeners, if you haven't done so yet, like, follow, subscribe. It's the cheesy call to action everybody gives you, but I'm going to give it to you here as well. Like, follow, and subscribe the Redefine podcast. Share it with a friend who maybe needs a couple of leadership lessons today, because Katie Day brought the fire. We will catch you all on the flippity flip. Katie Day, blessings to you. Have a great one, and we'll see you soon.
See you later.